join us on video when you're ready, if you want to. There's the Kiefers. Hi, Kiefers. Hi, Simha. There's the Bass family coming in. Ooh, we caught you at the table. Even better.
Yes, we were still having dinner.
Great.
Still eating Maggie's.
All good. All good.
Enjoy.
I hear dreidel. Someone's playing dreidel.
Yeah.
Makeup, go mess with it, please. See who else we have. Everyone else is hiding.
Not eating.
You're not hiding? You're here?
Yep.
Make
Bass
ready.
family, do you have anything oily tonight for dinner?
We did not have anything oily tonight.
No.
We know we have 7 more nights of oily, and we did have the whole like Hebrew school sufgan yot eating competition in our house last weekend. So,
Wait, what?
You did.
well, it wasn't really a competition, but
Wasn't a competition.
we did manage to consume a lot in one day. So we felt like we could take a
I only
night
had
off.
2.
We were all just going for personal bests.
I only had 2.
Hi, Rini.
Hi, I had to restart my computer to get the video to work.
No, it's nice to see you.
No.
Who did have oily things? Did the Werbos have oily things?
Oh, yeah.
Josh is actually foraging in the basement now because he remembered he had frozen latke type thing. But he also made fried hamburger in honor of the holiday. It's like a chicken fried steak.
I breaded a hamburger.
Nice.
I had some donuts. Tomorrow
Ooh.
morning I'll have latkes I have latkes with cream cheese and lox for breakfast.
Oh, that sounds good.
It is. I went to a hotel once in December and they were serving that when I was on.
The Parkway Deli has that. I think the Parkway Deli has that on their menu.
Yeah, there's a few places. I heard there's a place in Baltimore also.
Nice.
Once you have latkes that way, you never go back.
Sounds good.
Applesauce just doesn't cut it.
You think it does?
Yuri, come in here.
Come here. That video's on till we like.
I thought we were eating.
All right. Well, do we think we have a quorum? Should we go ahead and kick it off? All right.
Let's do it.
Well, Micah's antsy to light the candles. So I'll go ahead and officially kick us off. So for those that don't know me, my name is Sarah Goldberg. I'm the Vice President of Membership at TI. And I know we had some folks that are non-members who registered for the event. So we want to welcome everyone tonight, whether you're a member or not. If you're not, we're especially excited to have you joining in our community this evening. So it's going to be really exciting. So we're going to light the candles together. And what I thought I would do is see if there's any volunteers for folks that would like to do one of the 3 brachot we're going to do tonight, or maybe lead us in Ma'od Tzur. So anyone want to raise your hand and take a piece of it? Okay, Simcha, what do you want to do?
Let's I'll do the Hanirot Halalu.
Okay, great. Anybody else want to take a piece? Because otherwise you're going to have the Goldberg chorus and it's fine, but
The,
Fine.
no one else? Okay, so the Goldberg chorus will take the 3 brachot. You all should do it yourselves. That way you will drown us out in your own homes. And then after that, Simcha, you want to handle the rest of it?
Yeah, so I think you do the first blessing before you light, you do the second blessing when you light the shamas, and then you light well, now it's just one other candle during the Hanei Rodolalu, according to
Okay,
Different-
Dandy Guide.
There's different ways that it can be done. Everybody should light in the way that they want it, that they want to light them.
okay.
Okay.
And then when do we say Shachachianu? After or before? Simcha.
I think you do it before the Hanei Rodolalu.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
all 3 blessings and then Hanera Talalu.
All right, well, we're gonna take it away. So we'll get going and you can join us. Who wants to light? Yes, you get to.
Oh,
Or I get to. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadliknu shel Chanukah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asa nisim lavoteinu bayamim hahem b'zman hazeh. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'echianu v'kiyamanu v'higianu b'zman hazeh.
Hanei Rodolalu, achnu madlikin, al hanisim v'al ha'truos, v'al ha'niflaos, v'al ha'milchamos, she'asisa lavoseinu, bayamim ha'hem b'zman hazeh, al yedei kohanecha hakdoshim, v'chol shmonas yemei Chanukah, Oshmonas Yemei Chanukah, Haneros Halalu, Kodesh Hem V'yen Lanu, Reshus Lehishtamesh Bahen, Eile L'rosan, Bilvat, Kedei Lahodos Ul Halel, L'shim Hagadol, Al Nisecha, V'al Niflosecha, V'al Yeshua Secha.
Awesome. Okay. Awesome. Thank
You
you,
know, I just
everyone.
want to note that I just got this Chanukah from Israel yesterday. It is a product from B'Tzalel. The original, I don't know how old this one is. They started making these about a century ago. It has the Shimon, it has a shekel coin showing the temple facade and also a denarius showing the water drawing festival with the pitcher and the palm branch on it.
That's awesome. That's perfect for you, Simcha, with the coins on it.
Yep.
That's awesome. Anybody else want to share anything special about their Hanukkah? I can see many of them. Not all of them. I'm going to turn ours into the window.
No. I
There we
bought
go.
mine in Israel during a trip a long time ago. I don't
Nice.
know
Like
if there's
even once,
anything special about it, but I bought it there.
Excellent. Good.
I want to point out this one right here, which our second year out from college, we did not have any candles. So we went to Walmart and got these glass tea light holders. And so this is our Walmart Hanukkah, which
like-
now we're burning with oil.
That's awesome.
And
See?
not about our Hanukkah, but I wanted to welcome my mom who's struggling to get herself into the Zoom properly, but Maxine got
Excellent.
them there.
Welcome, Maxine. Thanks for joining us. All right, well, we also have our special guest for the evening who has joined us. So I'm going to do a little intro for Jordan, who's going to do some storytelling. Everyone, Jordan Hill is an immensely animated Jewish storyteller, educator, and Maggid. Whether in synagogues or summer camps, at festivals, or on his recordings, Jordan weaves tales filled with energy, enchantment, and a deep sense of the sacred. He roots himself so firmly in the stories that listeners cannot help but join him there, with imagination flying alongside of him through worlds wonderful and joyous. And I don't know about you, but just reading that intro makes me really excited about having Jordan tell us some stories. So I will go off mute and give it away to Jordan.
Wonderful. Hi, everybody. Hello. Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach.
So let's see. Is there a way to spotlight my screen in the view?
Yeah, so if everyone can click on view and then choose speaker view, and then I will go ahead and figure out how to spotlight you. But that, at least if everybody does that and goes on mute, then we should keep you in the spotlight.
Okay, wonderful. There we are. Beautiful. Okay, thanks, guys. This is very exciting. I love sharing stories, and I'm a couple of hours behind you. I'm in Tucson, Arizona. So that means that like I'm hurtling towards Chanukah as you guys are there. So I've got a few stories, and when I tell stories, it is often with a ton of participation, and that means all of you. Even if we're muted, even if we're behind a screen, I'm going to invite as much action, sound effects, chants, songs as possible. So the first thing is this: whenever I tell stories, I use an old tradition that comes from the island of Haiti, where the storyteller starts and ends by saying crick, and the listeners all respond by saying crack. So let's just, if you're close to your computer, if you could just unmute yourself. If you're far, don't worry. But let's just get a back and forth sound here of crick, crack.
Crack.
To practice. Okay, ready? Here we go. Crick.
Crack.
Oh, that was good. It was even in unison with Zoom. That's amazing. Awesome. Okay, cool. So, and so for this next piece, and we don't have to mute yet because it's nice to hear each other doing it first. I want you for this next story, I want you to blow really, really hard into your hand. Okay, go. And then do the same thing, but up. Go like. Okay. And then the other thing for this story is this. Everyone raise your hand as if you've got an idea and you're really excited and you want to share it. Go like, ooh, 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 ooh. Yeah, yeah. Nice. And then everyone get really disappointed, like, ah. Can I see that? Okay, awesome. Okay, so how about this? I'm going to start. Let's hear crick crack, and then we'll all mute ourselves. And then at some point, I might invite some chatting too. So if everyone can check where your chat is, I might ask you some questions to supply me some answers with, okay? So if you're close to your computer, if you're not, don't worry. Here we go. Everybody take a deep breath in and out. And here, a little story from a fragment of Talmud brought to life by a couple of Jewish storytellers, Barbara Rush and Howard Schwartz. Everyone says one more time, crick.
Crack.
Crick.
Crack.
Okay, and let's mute. Once upon a time, in this time of year, it was Hanukkah. And as we know by looking around us in our half of the world, Hanukkah time means what season? Act it out. Act out the season right now. And all the rest, right? So it was cold. And while all the humans are running around, at least in the Jewish villages, giving gifts, and in other villages too, giving gifts for all their holidays, the sun decided that it wanted to give a gift to the moon. And as it considered what kind of gift it could possibly give to its beloved partner in the sky, the moon, it thought, you know, this time of the year, I get to shine bright in the middle of the day when it's the warmest part of the day. But the moon, well, sometimes she's up during the day, but often she's up in the middle of those freezing cold nights. What the moon clearly needs is a jacket for warmth. So the son, disguising himself as a human being, came down into the world, into a little shtetl, a little Jewish village in Eastern Europe, where there were particularly good tailors, people who made clothes. And the son in human form went to this group of tailors and said, I have this big bag of gold and I will give it to you if you can figure out a way to make a jacket for the moon. And the tailors were like, well, I guess we can, see what we can do. Okay, we'll give it a shot. And so the son went back to the sky, and the tailors gathered together in a group, and they said, okay, how do we make a jacket for the moon? And they started thinking, and they started thinking, and they started thinking, and they said, well, it's impossible. The moon is always changing shape and size. And mind you, this was long before such thing as spandex. And so how do we create some sort of jacket for something that on a daily basis is a different size? What are we going to do? Now, if you guys have any ideas about what they might do, you can put it in the chat. Because I'm curious, how can you possibly do that? And as they sat there scratching their heads and thinking, eventually they came to this place of disappointment, just like, oh, we can't do it. It's impossible. And they all were really bummed. Let's see it, everyone. Go. But then there was this young tailor. He was like fresh out of apprenticeship, and he was so excited, and he had this brilliant idea, or so he thought. So let's see it, everyone. He put his hand up and he was like, oh, I know. What we can do is make the jacket out of something that's fluffy and it's soft and clouds. We can make the jacket out of clouds. And all the other tailors were like, brilliant! Yes, we'll make the jacket out of clouds. But in the group, there was this one older tailor who had seen everything, done everything, was very jaded. And he was just like, oh, that's not gonna work. Clouds are up in the sky. How are we possibly going to get clouds to work with to craft the jacket? And everyone heard this and they were like, oh yeah, he's got a point. And let's see it, everyone. Go, oh, it's not going to work. We were so close, but it's clouds. Oh. But just then, the young tailor was like, wait a second. Oh, I know. What if we don't wait and try to get the clouds up in the sky, because we can't do that, but we all know that when clouds are down on the earth, what do we call that? You can say it out loud wherever you are. Fog, mist, right? What if we wait for a night when there's like a lot of fog coming off the lake outside of town? We could collect that and use that to make a jacket. And everyone was like, yes, that's what we're gonna do. And they're like, whoa, we're gonna do it. But that sour-faced tailor stood up and was like, come on, people. The fog is cold. The wind blows right through it. How in the world is that going to keep the moon warm? And everyone was like, oh, yeah. Oh, let's see it. Oh. But that young tailor, one more time. Wait. What if we fill the fog with something warm? Like the fog holds it together, but we sprinkle it with light. Starlight, warm light to keep the moon warm inside. And everyone was like, yes, starlight, yes. No, said the sour-faced tailor. Stars are up in the sky too. How are we going to get the starlight? And of course, everyone was like, oh yeah, gah. But that young tailor, one more time, was like, whoa. Stars might be up in the sky, but their light comes down, and on a clear night, we can see the reflection in the lake. What if we wait for a night where it's just right? The sky is clear, the water is still, and the starlight is reflected, and the fog starts to collect on the shore. And we could put watchmen and people to watch for that moment, and then they'll sound an alarm, we'll all go out and we'll do the thing, and we'll send it up, and the moon will have a jacket. And everyone was like, yes! And amazingly, the sour-faced tailor had nothing more to say. And so it was decided. A 24-hour watch took place by the side of this lake until one cold night, towards the end of Hanukkah, they heard the sound. Come, everybody, bring your families, everyone, gather by the lake. And the families streamed out of the house of all these tailors. They were all ready, they practiced. They came and gathered on the shore, and they started to blow, to collect the fog and mix it with the starlight. They wanted to blow the fog over the lake to gather the starlight together. So everyone, put your hand in front of your mouth and let's blow like they did. Ready? They blew harder, harder, even harder. And as the starlight mixed in with the fog, they thought it was just right. And someone said, send it up, send it up. So everyone, they blew upwards, going. And with everyone from the shtetl blowing up, the clouds with the starlight started rising up, up, up to the moon, who gathered the light and the warmth around her, light in the midst of the dark. And so it was, and so it still is today. I invite you on one of the nights, whether Hanukkah or sometime throughout the winter, go outside and look up, and you might see the moon on a cold night, wrapped still in her jacket of clouds and of stars. Crick. Crick.
Crack.
Is he gonna do?
Nice, everybody. I like to do this at the end of a story. Shake that story into your bones, right? We can hear a story up here, but we want a story to go down into here. And I just want to give you one little nugget to go with that story, which is this. I used to live in DC, and I used to do a lot of Jewish storytelling, and I learned the story while I was there. And I was once driving with one of the rabbis in Southern Maryland, and we were going to a retreat or something. We were talking about that story, and I had this insight. I'd always really valued the young tailor, this guy who was all ideas and ideals, and he was ready to rock. But it occurred to me, yes, he seems like the hero of the story, but really, the whole thing wouldn't have worked if that sour-faced tailor hadn't been there, checking, pushing back, figuring out what's realistic or not. And it was that dynamic tension between the two that resulted in something potent. And as I think about the season that we're in, right, both this light within the darkness and the political fragmentation going on, the hope and the invitation here is how do we step outside of the divides and wrap our minds and our hearts around the dynamic tension that results in such a way that that dynamic tension can be fruitful and not destructive. So with that little Hanukkah wish, I'm going to launch us into the old days, the days of the Maccabees, or maybe right before the Maccabees. So here we go. Everybody, I love this story. There's a lot of participation. So I'm going to teach you a couple of chants that go in the story. And then I'm going to ask you to unmute so we can hear it, even in a cacophony of chaos, just to get some wind in the sails of the story. So here we go. So the first chant goes like this. You don't need to unmute yet. Let's just stay muted while I teach it to you, and then we'll unmute and try it together, okay? It goes like this. Cock-a-doodle-doo! Give me back my gelt. It's a rooster, by the way. Here we go. One more time. Cock-a-doodle-doo! Give me back my gelt. Cock-a-doodle-doo! Give me back my gelt. Good. That's the first chant. The second chant is this. Pat your tummy, filled with maybe latke, sufganiyot, other good stuff. And everyone say, magic tummy, swallow all the water. Let's say stomach. That just sounds better. Magic stomach, swallow all the water. Okay, that's going to change at some point in the story, but I'll keep you clued in. So right now, let's unmute yourselves. Let's hear our chaos for a moment. And here we go. First song, chant, cock-a-doodle-doo. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Cock-a-doodle-doo! Give me back my gelt. Cock-a-doodle-doo! Give me back my gelt. Excellent. Next one. Your stomach. Ready? Magic stomach, swallow all the water. Oh, heartwarmingly beautiful. Okay, excellent, everybody. You can mute yourselves. And everybody kind of settle in. I'm going to settle into water. And take a deep breath in and out. And crick. Crack. Once upon a time, back in the days of Israel, when the Syrian Greeks under Antiochus had taken over, as you'd probably know, the Jews were not being treated well. They weren't allowed to practice their Judaism. They weren't allowed to practice their religion. The temple had been sacked and taken, not sacked, but like, desecrated. Treasures had been stolen from the temple, and much more was being stolen from the Jews on a daily basis. And they say that in that time, there was a very poor family living in Jerusalem. And in that family was a young girl about your age, all of you, and she had this rooster. And it was her beloved rooster because it didn't lay eggs. It served very little purpose for the family. If anything, it woke everyone up early and was kind of annoying, but she loved this rooster. And it was a magic rooster. It had the strange capacity to swallow anything, no matter how much it was, as long as it sang that song, magic stomach, swallow all the, right? Could swallow it all. But it could also spit it out by singing magic stomach, spit out all the. This was its strange but true magic power. Now, one day, that rooster was out in, the streets of Jerusalem, which you can imagine in those days was very different. A lot of animals wandering around, roosters pecking around on the ground looking for grain. When it hits something hard, it looks like a seed at first. It was like, and pecks at it again. And it is like a little nugget. And as it pecks at it, it feels something metal and hard. And it picks it up and just, squinting its eyes, sees a glint of something golden and thinks to itself, oh, my little girl's gonna love this. I'm gonna bring this back to her as a gift. And so the rooster turns and starts, waddling through the streets back towards its home with this little bit of gold, or as they would say in Yiddish, gelt, in its beak. When who should come walking down the street but the emperor, the king Antiochus himself. He, of course, had a retinue of guards surrounding him. He was wearing his big baggy pants. He was a pretty big guy. And he was just, surveying the city, making sure all the Jews were doing exactly what they were not supposed to be doing, which was Judaism. And as he walked, he saw this rooster kind of hopping along with a little bit of gold or gelt in its beak. And he's like, what is a rooster doing with gold? That gold shouldn't go to a rooster. That gold belongs in my treasury. And so Antiochus turns to his guards and says, guards, get that gold from the rooster. Bring it to me. And the guards are like, yes, your highness. And they run over and they grab the rooster and they pick him up and they pull the gelt from his beak and they give it to the king. And the king says, good. And they let the rooster down. And the king makes his way back to his palace and tosses that little nugget of gold, tiny little pebble of gold really, into his treasury filled with the treasures, most of which were taken from the Jews, including from their temple. And then he goes and sits on his throne. Well, that little rooster was not having him. Like the Maccabees that would soon follow him, he might have been small, but he was mighty. And he was not going to take this sitting down or clucking. He was going to make his way to the throne room, which he did. He flapped his way all the way to the palace. He came to the window of the throne room, which was open, hopped into the window, stared at Antiochus sitting on his throne with his big baggy pants. And he said, everybody, cock-a-doodle-doo, give me back my gelt. Cock-a-doodle-doo, give me back my gelt. And Antiochus looks up, like, that rooster? Seriously? Like, guards, get rid of that thing. Take him out to the courtyard, throw him down the well. And so the guards are like, oh, okay. And so they run over and grab the rooster and take him outside to the courtyard where there's a well, which of course, just say it to your muted microphone, what's on the bottom of the well? Water. They were trying to drown the rooster. Not very nice. But they took that rooster and they threw him down the well, not knowing he was a magical rooster. And as he hurtled downwards towards that water that could be his demise, he sang, everybody, magic stomach, magic stomach, swallow all the water. And as soon as he hit the water, he swallowed the well dry. So did he drown? Instead, he clawed and flapped his way out of the well, right back to the window of the throne room. He hopped up and he said, cock-a-doodle-doo, give me back my gelt. Cock-a-doodle-doo, give me back my gelt. And Antiochus, sitting on his throne, was like, I just told you to get rid of what? God. Okay, forget the well. Guards, take him outside to where they're like, burning some refuse and throw him on the fire. And the guards are like, okay, roasted chicken tonight. They run to the window and they grab the rooster and they take him outside to where there's like a big bonfire and they toss him towards the fire and then turn to go. So they don't see as that rooster is like towards the fire. Remember, what's in his stomach? All the water. And so he sings, magic stomach, magic stomach, spit out all the water. And the water's gone, the fire is out. The rooster is unroasted. And he hops out of that charred mess and he's like, "Arr!" And he flaps back towards the palace window. He hops into the throne room window, looks at Antiochus, is like, cock-a-doodle-doo! Give me back my gelt, everybody! Cock-a-doodle-doo! Give me back my gelt! And Antiochus is like, are you kidding me? Guards, what are you doing? What am I paying you for? Take him out to the hills outside of town and find a big beehive and just toss him into that. Let the bees take care of him. And the guards are like, okay. So they go and grab the rooster. They take him out of the walls of Jerusalem, out into the hills, and they find this like kind of like low tree with a big hive in it. And they take that rooster and just like, whew. And as he sails towards those bees, he sings, magic stomach, swallow all the bees. And he swallows the bees. And because his stomach is magical, they cannot sting him inside. And now that they're all inside, they cannot sting him on the outside either. And with a stomach full of bees, he flaps back down and he goes back down into the city of Jerusalem, into the window of the throne room. He looks at Antiochus and he says, cock-a-doodle-doo, give me back my gelt. Cock-a-doodle-doo, give me back my gelt. And Antiochus, he looks at the guards and says, oh, can't find good help these days. I'm going to take care of this myself. And he gets up and he walks over towards that rooster and grabs him. He looks the rooster in the eye and says, I'm going to sit on you. The rooster's like, argh! And he takes him and he puts him in his back pocket and he goes, being a big guy, to go and sit on the rooster and just be done with it directly. Not knowing that the rooster's belly is filled with. And before the rooster gets sat on, he sings, magic stomach, spit out all the bees. And all of a sudden, a strange buzzing sound emerges from the back of Antiochus's pants. And then they start to sting. He's like, guards, just get this rooster out of here. Take him to the treasury. He can get his gold, his gelt, get anything he wants. Just get it. And so the guards like run over. They like reach into his back pocket, pull out this rooster. They're like, bees are flying everywhere. They run from the throne room. They run to the treasury. And they don't want to get stung either. They just like toss the rooster in and they're like, ugh, and they run off. And the rooster is in this treasury. And he's like, whoa. Because there is that tiny little pebble of gold that he had earlier, but around it, mountains of gold and silver and the menorah from the temple and like all these treasures that were taken from the temple. And he thinks, they did say I could take whatever. And he goes, magic stomach, swallow all the treasure. And he goes hopping back to the little girl that he lives with. And when he gets to her house, she's like, oh, where were you? I was a little worried. And he doesn't answer, of course. He just sings to himself, magic stomach, spit out all the treasure. And the little girl's like, ah! Well, not only did that family's life take a turn for the better, but once the Maccabees rose up and in the footsteps of that bold and tireless little rooster, rose up in the face, small against the many, and miraculously overcame, captured the temple back and rededicated, all the treasure was there to be returned, thanks to the rooster. Crick.
Quack.
Crick.
Crack.
Okay, everybody. Shake that story in. Nice. Okay. Let's see where we are. Okay, I want to tell you a Hasidic story now, a Hasidic Chanukah story. I find this to be quite lovely, and given our context right now, where we are with coronavirus and recent election stuff and ongoing election stuff and all sorts of things, we're facing a lot of challenges. There's a lot of darkness around. There's a lot of injustice around, as there typically has been in human history, but made it much of it now. And so the question in the Hanukkah of like how to be a light in the face of darkness, right? How to bring justice in the face of injustice, what to do with that. That's a big question. Even if we're small, even if we're a minority, even if whatever, how to stand up strong and tall and straight. So this is a story that I think captures a bit of that. And here we go. One more sip of water. Get yourselves comfy, settle in. Everybody, take a deep breath in and out. And I'd love to hear your voices for a second. The Zoom thing is always weird as a storyteller, but let's just do crick crack together if you can unmute yourself. Just that. Crick. There's people there. Crick.
Crack.
Okay. Once in Eastern Europe, there lived a man who was an oil maker. He lived with his family in the forest, in the woods, because in those woods was where he collected the seeds and the nuts and the berries that he could press to make these really unique and special oils. And they were so unique and special that the rabbi who lived in the town just outside of the forest loved using his oils, this oil maker's oils, for Hanukkah. In fact, they had a tradition. He would, on the day before the first night of Hanukkah, so as if it was like earlier today, he would take his most recent, nicest batch of oil in a little pouch that was, waterproof or such, and he would schlep it through the forest all the way to the town. And when he got to the town, he would go to the Rebbe's house, knock on the door, and together they would pour the oil into the Chanukah, and with a little wick inserted into the oil, when the sun set, they would light the first candle of Hanukkah together, year after year after year. And so this year, it wasn't going to be any different at first. He was making the oil, he was pressing everything he needed to, he was collecting a really wonderful batch. But then the winter got really bitter. The cold was overwhelming, and the snow just seemed to fall for weeks and weeks, such that when the day before the first night of Hanukkah arrived, his family, the oil maker's family, said, don't go, the rabbi will understand. It's too cold, it's too dangerous. And he said, it's Hanukkah, I have to go. This is our tradition. And he takes his little pouch of oil, bundles up as best as he could, and he sets off into the frosty, snowy woods. Well, it isn't long into his little trek when the clouds begin to gather and snow starts to fall. Gentle at first, but then thicker and thicker until soon there's so much snow coming down that he can't even really see where he's going. And then when it does finally clear from falling, so much snow has blanketed everything that he can't decipher any landmarks. He can't see like what the hills or the rocks or the streams or the paths or anything that he would use to find his way. And he realized he was totally lost, even though he knew these forests so well. And he's looking and looking and looking, and then he feels the temperature dropping and dropping and dropping. And as his body begins to shake, he realizes if he doesn't find shelter or warmth, that's it, he's done for. And he thinks of his family and how they were right, he shouldn't have gone out. And what was he thinking going to the rabbi? And then he was like, the Rebbe, I'm going to light the oil. I've got oil, I can light oil. He had a few matches with him too. And so he looked around. He found what looked like a big boulder covered in snow, and he cleared some snow, and sure enough, it was a rock. And he found on the top of the boulder a little dip, and he took out his pouch of oil and with shaking hands poured a bit into the little dip. And then he reached into his jacket and ripped out some of the fabric and rolled it into a little wick, stuck it into the oil, and then with numb fingers trembling, he got a spark and lit the wick, and it was the tiniest of flames. But that bit of light, that tiny bit of warmth was enough to just warm his soul, to give him hope that something was possible. And he warmed his numb fingers by it. He held his face close, careful not to, light his beard on fire. And as he lay there, just feeling the warmth, he started to close his eyes. And for a few seconds, he drifted off to sleep. Me, 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 me. Me, 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 me. And as he slept, he had a dream. And in his dream, he found himself in this warm and dry landscape with a hill and a cave in front of him. And through the shadows of the cave, he saw what looked like a flickering light. And he was curious. And so he made his way in. And he stepped into this huge cavern, in the middle of which was a fire. And sitting there, an old man with a long gray beard. And the old man was like doing something, rolling something in his hands. And the oil maker said, "What are you doing?" And the old man looked up as if surprised that another person was there. And he said, "I'm rolling wicks. Look." And then the oil maker looked around and he saw hundreds, thousands, maybe tens of thousands of little wicks rolled up, bundled up, stacked up all around the cave. And then he looked back at the man and said, "Who are you?" And the old man said, "Me? I am Matityahu, father of the Maccabees. In my day, we were surrounded by darkness and injustice. But I lit a torch of hope and of freedom, and a few gathered around me and lit torches as well. The Maccabees were small in number, but they were enough to dispel the darkness for some time. But now, in the years and centuries since, the world has gotten bigger, more complicated. Its problems have too. I am afraid that it is no longer enough for a minority, for a few, to hold the light of hope and of justice. It's going to take more. And so I am rolling these wicks to prepare for that day that the hearts of many can ignite with light and with hope and with justice for all." And then there was this flash of light, and the oil maker found himself awake and standing in a town, the Rebbe's town, in front of the Rebbe's door of his house. And he was like, "What? Is this still a dream?" And he pinched himself and he seemed awake. And he looked behind him and there were no footsteps in the snow. And he thought, how is this possible? But not knowing what else to do, he knocked on the Rebbe's door. And the door opened, and the Rebbe was like, "Oh, you look freezing. Come in. Why did you come? It's crazy to come at this time, this year, this season." And the man warmed himself by the fire and said, "Rebbe, the most amazing thing just happened to me." And he told him about his dream. And the Rebbe was like, "Oh." And that evening, when they lit the first candle of Chanukah, as they had that oil that man had specially pressed for the occasion, and they saw the fire flare up. Yes, there was a fire, and there was warmth, and there was light, but as they looked into that flame, they saw something more, both of them. They saw an invitation for us all to bring the light of justice and hope into a world with many problems, many corners of shadow and of darkness. Crick.
Crack.
Okay. An invitation for us all, for humanity. Okay, so I'm going to share one last story with you guys. Another fun, loud one, if you could help me out with this. Again, I'm going to teach you a couple of things, and then let's unmute just so I can hear the sound of it all happening. So first of all, take your thumbs and roll them around each other and go, "Karoo, karoo, karoo, karoo." Okay. And then there's a little song that goes with this one. It goes, "Roly-poly latka, roll on in. Roly-poly latka, roll on in." Okay, let's unmute. Let's hear it. Okay, so first of all, if you're close to your computer, you can push the button, unmute, and everybody go.
Roly, latka, roll on in.
There it is.
Roly, latka,
roll on in.
Roly poly
latka, roll on
in.
Ah, there we are. Yeah, it sounds like a great blues song. Roly poly latka. Okay, so here we go. Everybody, settle in. Take a deep breath. And crick.
Crack. Crack.
Crack.
Once upon a time, there was an elderly couple, an old man, his old wife, and they were very poor, very, very poor, such that when Chanukah time rolled around, literally the only food that they could afford to make were latkes, which, in the old days was just the food that the peasants could afford to make. It's like, we've preserved that part of our history for sure. Just potatoes and onions fried up, stuff that grows in the ground. And so they had a few latkes, and that was about it. Now, the old man would still work, and every day he would go off to do his work. And this one day, he had 3 latkes to take with him for his lunch, pretty much the majority of the food that he would eat that day. And he wrapped them all up very carefully because they were precious. And he started, hobbling over towards his job, up the hill and down the other side. And there he went, and he did his thing, and he worked and he worked and he worked. And about midday, it was time for some lunch. So he left his work and he climbed up the hill a bit to where there was like a little stump kind of bench thing that he could sit on. And he did, sat down. And he unrolled his latkes. And as he did so, accidentally, one of them fell. Now, typically, you imagine a latke falling and it's just going to go like splat. But this time, it fell on its edge. And being round-ish, it started to roll because it was up on a hill, right? And it started to roll away from him down the hill, going, karoo, 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 karoo. Now, again, this was like super precious to him. This was almost all the food that he had that day. This one latke, he couldn't lose it. And so he got up and, surprisingly nimble for his age, he hobbled after that latke. And that thing was going down the hill. So it was going faster and faster, but he was catching up. And just as he was about to get it, it went karoo, 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 right down this hole on the side of the path. And he was like, no. He was like, oh, I hope that hole is shallow. I hope I can reach it. He got down on his hands and knees and he reached down into the hole. And not only did it feel like the hole went way down, but as he got down there, he heard real soft and faint from down in below these voices singing this song. Roly-poly latke, roll.
Roll.
Roly-poly latke, roll. And he was like, what? What is going on? But then it occurred to him, why his latke on its edge and falling in this hole and those voices, something's going on. And being curious, more curious than hungry, he unwrapped his second latke and he just dropped it. Woo! And it landed again on its edge and started to roll, going karoo, 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 right down the hole. And he listened again and he heard it again, even louder, going roly,
poly,
roll on down.
Roll on. He was like, oh my God, this link, something's going on. They're calling, I don't know, my latkes. I got one more. He forgot all about his hunger at this point. He took that last latke and he dropped it and it landed on its edge and started to roll. Karoo, karoo, karoo. And the voices came even louder from the hole going, roly-poly latke, roll on in. Roly-poly latke, roll on in. And he was like, what is down there? And he's trying to look inside and see through the darkness when suddenly he hears this song change. Roly-poly old man, roll on in. Roly-poly old man, roll on in. And then he feels his legs lifting off the ground. And then he's going, karoo, 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 right into that hole, down, woo! And somehow, with the help of his cane, he landed safely in this huge cavern. And as he looked around, he sees hundreds, maybe thousands of mice standing around him, jumping up and down, going, roly-poly old man, roll on in, roly-poly old man, roll on in. And he's like, what? And the mice are like, you are our guest. You shared your latkes with us. Come, join us in a feast. And they take him to the other side of their cavern where there's like a menorah lighting it up and there's this huge table with all this food piled up. And he's like, whoa, what? Oh. And they look and they're like, what? What's wrong? You're not happy? And he's like, I'm just sad because my wife would love this, needs this too, and she can't have it. And they're like, oh, wait, hold on, we got that covered. And they run to the other side of the cave and they're on a ledge. They pull off this thing, little to us, big to them. A few of them carry it across and they bring it to him and they hold it up and he picks up this little golden dreidel. And they say, spin that at home and you can wish for any food you want and your wife and you will have it. Now, let's feast. And now with a lighter heart. He joins with them. He eats more than he's eaten in, I don't know, years. And when he's done, they help him out of the hole and he goes excitedly back to his house. And he's like, honey, we got the most amazing thing. Look at this dreidel. And he tells her, wish for anything that you want. Now, guys, if you have an idea, what would you wish for? Again, I'm not sure if the chat is working, but if it is, type in the chat, like if any food could be yours right this second, what would that food be? I'm going to take a sip of water while you answer.
I don't think the chat's actually open.
Oh, if it isn't, okay, unmute yourselves. Let's just hear like a wash of a few things. We'll all be out of time. I'm going to hear a few things to use in the story. What kind of food? Oh, I think I saw something.
Water too.
Lots of water and chocolate.
Ah, water and chocolate. Yes. Good. I think the chat, well, I don't know, I saw one chat.
Hot dog and sausages.
Hot dog and sausages. Perfect. Okay, let's start with hot dogs and then chocolate. Okay. Ooh, jelly donuts, souf ganiyot. Okay, so she's like, I think I kind of really want hot dogs and sausages. And he's like, okay, let's see. And they take this little dreidel and they spin it and they say, I wish for hot dogs and sausages. And all of a sudden, everyone do this, go poof, ready? All of a sudden, poof, on the table. This is like mound of sausages. And they're like, whoa! And they're like, okay, let's try souf ganiyot. And so they do it again. They spin the dreidel and they're like, I wish for souf ganiyot. And all of a sudden, poof, souf ganiyot. They spin it one more time and they're like, chocolate and water. And all of a sudden, poof, chocolate and some fresh glasses of water. And they're like, this is amazing. And they have such a feast. But about that time, their neighbor is walking by their house. Now, he was rather well off compared to their impoverishment. And he was a bit of a snoop. Always like kind of poking around. And he looked in their window and he sees them feasting. And he's like, how did they get all of that? And he goes around and he knocks on their door. And the old man opens up and says, oh, hi. And he said, where'd you get all that food? And the old man, who's just, kind-hearted, simple soul, he tells him the whole story of the mice and the latkes and da-da-da. And this greedy neighbor's like, I need a golden dreidel like that, even though he really didn't need a golden dreidel like that. And he's resolved to do whatever that old man did so he could get one. So he just runs away without even saying goodbye, goes back to his house, gathers his own 3 latkes together, schleps them up the hill and down the hill, finds the stump, tracks the old man's footprints in the dust to that hole. And he's like, and he unwraps it. And of course, he doesn't wait for any voices to come from the hole. He's just like, I'm going to make this happen. Pulls out his first latke, throws it in. Second one, throws it in. Third one, throws it in. And then he's like, here goes. And he throws himself in. Everyone, karoo, karoo. He spins, he tumbles, he falls, and poof, he landed down in that cave. Now, the mice had not invited him in. They had not called him in. They hadn't expected him. They were off on the far side of the cave doing their thing, and he quickly hides behind a boulder before he can be seen. And then he scopes the land, the territory, and he sees, sure enough, in the dim light, something golden on a ledge across the cave. And he's like, but I can't just go and grab it. There's mice, they'll see me. I've got to scare them off. I've got to chase. As we all know, mice are terrified of what domestic animal?
Cats.
Cats. And so from behind the rock, he goes. You can help me out, everyone, with your best meowing. Ready? Meow. And the mice freak out. They're like, oh my God, there's a cat in the cave, go! And they like scatter through all the tunnels and the passageways underground, and they're gone. And he's like, yeah, silly mice. And he goes across the cave, grabs his own little golden dreidel, and he's like, oh yeah. Climbs out of the hole, gets back to his house, and he's like, okay, what am I gonna get? Okay, guys, can I have a few other ideas for food?
Meatballs.
Chocolate orange.
Oh, I got the meatballs. What was the last one? I don't know if I'll be able to pronounce it.
With some ice
Chocolate
cream.
orange.
Chocolate orange.
Candy Legos. Candy Legos. Candy.
Pomegranates.
Pomegranates. Okay. I got meatballs and pomegranates and chocolate orange. I apologize for slaughtering it. So here we go. He's like, okay, meatballs. And he spins that golden dreidel. He's like, I wish for meatballs. And all of a sudden, everybody, poof, there on his table is a mound of dirt, like soil, just like, and he's like, what? I didn't say dirt, I said meatballs. And he takes that dreidel and he's like, okay, I just didn't hear it. I didn't say it clearly, and I gotta enunciate. Here we go. He spins the dreidel one more time. He thinks, okay, duck orange. It's very enunciated. And all of a sudden, poof, there on his table, there's just like worms squirming all over the place. And he's like, God, this thing is broken. One more time. And he spins it. And he's like, I wish for pomegranate. And all of a sudden, poof, snails and slugs like everywhere in his dining room, just like sliming up every surface they can find. And he's like, God! And he's so furious, grabs that golden dreidel, and he just like throws it as hard as he can out of his window. Poof. And the dreidel flies through the air. Woo. It lands near the top of that hill, and it starts to roll, everybody. Karoo, 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 down to the hole, and it drops down, karoo, 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 into the waiting hands of those mice who say, silly man, silly man. And so it was. While that somewhat greedy, not the nicest guy kind of neighbor ended up cleaning up dirt and worms and slime and snails and slugs for the rest of the evening, his kind-hearted, generous neighbors had a Hanukkah unlike any other in their lives. Crick.
Crack.
Crack. Crick.
Crack.
Crack.
Well, everybody, I hope that all of you have a Hanukkah tonight and this year unlike any other in your lives. And the fact that we're doing this over Zoom means that that has already happened. And so may we find the ability to bring some light into the darkness. May we find the chance to join together in celebration and to stand up to injustice and do all the other things that Hanukkah invites us to do. And I hope that all of you have a wonderful night and a Chag Sameach. Thank you for being here.
Great, thank you. All right, so thank you to Jordan for doing your story with us tonight. Thank you to everyone who came and attended this evening's event. As a reminder, we have something fun planned every single day during Hanukkah, so check out the website if you haven't already. Otherwise, everyone have a happy Hanukkah. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
It's a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Woo.
Good night, everybody.
Say thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Happy Hanukkah.
Thank you, Jordan.
You're welcome.